Lead vocals and background vocals. Getting them to blend together perfectly in a mix can be tricky. You've probably heard records where they sound perfectly glued together, yet there's still amazing definition and clarity between them. Like everything with mixing, there's a ton of tricks and techniques you can use to achieve that, and that's what I'm going to cover in this video. I'm going to show you exactly how to blend together your leads and background vocals and still maintain tons of clarity. So let's get started. There's 4 main tricks I like to use when I'm working with a big stack of background vocals and I'm trying to get them to blend with the lead. The first is using the entire stereo field to wrap the background vocals around the lead. Now, generally, your lead vocal is going to be right up the middle, panned to the center. But if all your background vocals are also panned directly in the center, it's going to be hard to get that kind of definition to help those vocals wrap around the lead. Listen before I apply any panning to the background vocals to how it just sounds like they're behind the lead. They don't wrap around enough.
You had that missing piece, brought back my sanity. You did everything right, more love, more life with you. Oh, seasons come.
As a result, the vocals sound kind of flat. So let's fix that. I'm going to pan these out. I'm going to send these very far left and right, and these are going to be maybe a little bit less left and right, and just different amounts here in order to spread these background vocals around the stereo field. Now let's take a listen to what that sounds like.
And it go, 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 go. I can feel it changing. Do you feel it? Hate to leave you hanging while I'm healing.
So we can hear how those backgrounds and harmonies are now wrapping around the lead vocal more. And it just gives it a much bigger, more 3D sound to the vocals overall. So that's the first technique. Make sure you're using panning on your background vocals to spread them out. You can see that these were recorded in stereo pairs so that we could wrap one to the left and one to the right. And that just helps give those backgrounds a bigger feel. The second technique I like to use is with the tone. Now, take a listen to what happens. We've got this set up right now to have very bright present leads and also very bright and present airy background vocals. Take a listen to what this sounds like.
And it go, 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 go. I can feel it changing. Do you feel it? Hate to leave you hanging while I'm healing.
Now, all of a sudden, the background vocals actually sound a little bit closer than the leads, and they're kind of stepping on the lead vocal a bit too much. And that's because they're all up front with a very crisp tone. See, tone is kind of like shades of color. You can imagine a painting all done with only neon colors. It's going to be very hard to show shadows and depth in that type of image. It's the same thing with audio. If everything is bright and crisp and present, it's going to be very hard to have front to back depth. And that's what we want with leads and background vocals. We want to kind of place them at different depths in order to create that sense of separation. And so we can do that with tone. So generally, I'll have a brighter lead vocal because I want that to be right up front, and then a little bit darker background vocal stack. So here I've got Xvox pulled up, and I'm just going to remove some of this high end that we're adding, and you're going to hear how the background vocals just fall back into the mix. We're going to set it so that they're right behind the lead vocal depth wise, and it's just going to give it a much more defined sound.
And it go, 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 go. I can feel it changing. Do you feel it? Hate to leave you hanging while I'm healing.
So try using a darker tone for background vocals if you want to send them a little bit further back in the mix. A darker tone, less high end, less air, is going to naturally sound a little bit further away. And it's a good trick you can use really on anything in your mix. If you want it to sound a little further away, you can try playing with the tone to darken it up. And you can see I didn't remove all the air or all the brightness. We're still adding a little bit of crispness to these vocals because it sounds nice, but we just took away enough so that it sits behind the lead vocal at a perfect spot in the mix. So that's the second technique, using tone to achieve depth front to back in your mix. Now the third trick is similar, using space or reverb to also place a sound further back. See, reverb also has a similar property. The more reverb you apply, generally the further away it might sound in a mix. So let's play around with the reverb on this background vocal stack.
And it go, 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 go. I can feel it changing. Do you feel it? Hate to leave you
So we can hear that as we apply more reverb, the sound generally sounds a little bit further away. Now we can emphasize that even more by adjusting the level. If we want something to sound really distant, we might use a bunch more reverb and turn the level down. Or in this case, I like how present it sounds. I just wanted to give it a little bit more smear behind the lead vocal just to kind of help glue it back there with the rest of the mix. And this amount of reverb does that perfectly. So that's the third technique, is to use reverb in a similar way to push things back in the mix. So far we've talked about panning in order to separate the background vocals left to right. We've talked about tone and reverb in order to push them front to back more. And everything we've talked about is separating the backgrounds from the leads. But what if you want to actually now bring them back together and glue them in with the leads more? That's where this fourth trick comes in handy. And that is using multiband dynamics on the all vocal bus. So to do this trick, you're just going to put all your leads and your backgrounds into the same aux track or the same bus or group, and then you're going to apply multiband dynamics on that group. With X-Rack Pro, you also get X-Rack Max, which I'm using here because it's got a ton of different multiband modes with OTT, massive, tight, open, crush, and we also have very fine control over each band and how much we're applying on each band. So I'm going to stay on this open mode. It's just kind of a more natural sounding OTT. It's going to bring up the low level detail, but it's not going to crush things quite as much as OTT would. And then I'm just going to pull up this multi-slider and listen to these backgrounds and leads glue together a bit more.
And it go, 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 go. I can feel it changing, do you feel it? Hate to leave you hanging while I'm healing. And it go, 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 go. I can feel it changing, do you feel it? Hate to leave you hanging while I'm healing.
So you can hear how that's bringing up the backgrounds a little bit, tucking in the leads, and just generally adding that little bit of polish and glue to all the vocals. Now you can do this even more extremely if you really want that kind of crushed effect.
And it go, 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 go. I can feel it changing, do you feel it? Hate to leave you hanging while I'm healing.
But I generally like to use the open mode if I'm going for this type of natural, more subtle effect. So that's the fourth trick, to set up an all vocal group or bus or aux track and to use multiband dynamics with X-Rack Max to glue everything back together. You can hear how the other three techniques created all the separation we needed, and then this just brought it all together. We maintained all the articulation and clarity, but we now have an even bigger, more solid sounding lead and background vocal stack. Now the secret to using all of these techniques is to strike the right balance for your track. Some mixes might need an even wider stereo field and might not need as much front to back depth. Other mixes might not need as much stereo width, but they might need a lot more front to back depth. So just experiment with these tricks in different amounts on your mix and go with what you like, what you feel for a particular track. I love using Xvox and X-Rack Pro on this because there's a ton of tools that help us push things around in the mix front to back. Everything sounds fantastic and it's just really fast to experiment and dial in. But of course you can use any plugins, any tools you like and still apply these techniques to your mix. If you enjoyed this video, leave us a comment, give it a like, and subscribe for more tutorials like this. And as always, happy mixing.